Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today we're going to go over the patch notes for patch 0.9.1 Rising Flames. And I'm really excited for this patch. I get to come back and play. I haven't played for a while, so super excited. So let's go ahead and go over some of the changes. I already did a video on a lot of the things coming in this next patch. We're going to see a lot of that same stuff in this patch notes, but it'll also go into some of the finer details and give us details on all those changes that were made, such as skill balance changes or bug fixes, things like that. So let's go ahead and start scrolling down here. If you haven't seen the trailer, I will have it linked below. The trailer for the patch is one of their best ones they've done yet. I really enjoyed it. And let's go ahead and get started. So first, the table of contents, like I said, they're going to go over the campaign rework, which we covered. Then you have systems like the region selection for servers, ladders, cosmetic stores, item linking, towns, Monolith of Fate, some of the changes coming to that, such as being able to reduce your corruption. We'll go into all the details for all of those as we scroll down here. First off, we have the Chapter 1 rework. Now, like I said, we covered this in the video that I posted just the other day, but they are completely reworking Chapter 1 so that you can get a bit more involved in the story and bringing that whole chapter with some new mobs up to the current standards of the game and really pushing the bar a little bit higher. So they've completely recreated Chapter 1, fleshing out the story, the environment, inhabited by new enemies and allies. Chapter 1 continues the trend of pushing the bar for visual quality and style. For the full dive into the Chapter 1 rework, we can go to the other post. Like I said, we've already done that, but the basics are there's going to be new zones, new enemy types, new voice acting, new music, and existing characters that have not reached the last refuge outskirts will now load into the new start of Chapter 1. So if you have a character that you created but you hadn't done the first few zones, you'll be starting right here in the new area. Then some other changes about the campaign was the rebalance zone levels. Because that first chapter is a bigger section now, there's going to be more zones, you're going to gain a few extra levels. They got to rebalance that through the whole campaign. They changed some of that going into Chapter 2 and 3 to account for it. The idle system is now unlocked by completing the Void Assault when you first reach the Council Chambers instead of saving Last Refuge, which was after defeating Panyon. The quest to be able to choose your mastery now occurs after completing Chapter 2 instead of completing Chapter 3. And then updated the visual layouts and name of the zone at the start of Chapter 2 so you know when you hit it. Updated the lighting and atmosphere of the Last Refuge outskirts. They fixed the bug with if you teleported to Shattered Wood before completing Gasper's earlier quest, you'd be unable to complete them. That's a big thing. If you were in a party or something and you borrowed their portals, you'd be able to go over there. Added a new mini boss to the Rustlands and adjusted shrine and enemy spawns in the Rustlands, including a fix for shrines sometimes spawning out of bounds. So the bugs with those should be gone and you should be able to access them all. For systems, you have the region selection. When you start the game, you will now be able to manually select the server that you want to play on. This is really helpful if you're like in party play and you guys want a mutual server that's in the middle instead of having to base it out of one of your locations, just so that your ping is a bit lower. And party leaders can now change the party region in the social menu to define which server region all party members connect to when loading to a new zone. I've heard that they've also made it to where you can change party leader by right-clicking on the portrait as well. You can actually change that without just getting rid of the party and having to recreate. For ladders, they've added ladders this season. We went over this in the other video. You'll be able to see the records for softcore for solo, 1, 2, 3, 4 players. Hardcore, same stats, solo, 1, 2, 3, or 4 players, depending on if you're in a party or solo. We'll be expanding on the ladder features in the future patches with other activities. I'm hoping that they include the monolith or corruption stacking at some point. And then the first iteration of the cosmetic store is coming. So you got points when you bought the game. Perhaps you did another supporter pack. At additional points, you'll be able to put on some cosmetics now and look pretty good. Then there's item linking, added the ability to link items in chat with control and right clicking. A lot of people have been asking for this to show off their items in chat in the game instead of having to do it in Discord or elsewhere. And then a maximum of 3 items can be linked per message. Then for towns, we went over this. They're adding some towns to the game. They're adding the first iteration of it. Towns are non-combat social spaces which feature common amenities such as stash access and vendors. Solo players will automatically attempt to join an existing populated town so they will be able to find other players and socialize with them. Players within a group before entering the town will currently be assigned their own town area, and each town has a town chat channel to talk to others that are in that area. And they'll be continuing to expand on it. I'm sure if we give feedback, they're going to listen to it and make appropriate changes. We have the Monolith of Fate, which is adding in some new end game objectives like ambushes. This is a new monolith objective where you need to slay enemies to lure out the ambush. Ambushes usually contain multiple enemies, including a boss. If multiple players are split up in the zone, only one will be ambushed, and there will be a chat message telling players who it was that got ambushed. These are about as common as patrolling enemy objectives, so you will run into some of them. And then we have the Sanctuary of Iterra, which is going to be a way to reduce your corruption instead of having to look for an Orbis that's closer to the center of the timeline that would have reduced it for you when it gets high. And this new echo type appears next to the origin whenever corruption is above minimum. It allows you to reduce the corruption while resetting the timeline like a Shade of Orbis echo. This echo has a unique layout and a short boss fight, after which you interact with a statue of Iterra to reduce your corruption. You can choose a small reduction up to 10, a moderate reduction, or reduce your corruption to the minimum 0 for non-empowered and 100 for empowered. So there's no having to do multiple Orbises to keep lowering it little by little. Just one of these runs and you're going to be able to set it completely reset, or just reduce it by a little, or middle ground, do a moderate reduction. Completing this echo does not affect your active monolith modifiers, aside from those that came from corruption. And then meanwhile, the Shade of Orbis echo now also increases corruption and no longer spawns at distances where they previously would have reduced it. So the higher your corruption, the farther on it's going to be before you start running into them. And this change makes it quicker and easier to reduce your corruption, obviously. And then some bug fixes they had. They fixed the bug where monolith modifiers could be duplicated if a timeline had an impossibly high number of mods. Those duplicated mods would be removed the next time you enter an echo in that timeline. They fixed the bug where abandoning a vessel of echoes or memory echo could result in those vessel enemies appearing in future echoes. That'd be a fun one. Fixed the bug with the Shrouded Plateau echoes being very dark. Fixed being unable to pick up potions dropped by soul generators in the Altar of Flesh, and then fixed some visual bugs in the Altar of Flesh as well. And then for rewards, increased how common the echo completion reward types that are unique to a certain timeline by 11 to 33%, and the amount depends on the reward type and corruption. And then they increased bonus corruption from Gaze of Orbis by about 10%, so you can stack it a little bit faster on those other timelines that don't have as high as corruption as your highest. And then some bugs with the gameplay. They fixed the bug that caused players to sometimes be unable to enter the boss room of dungeons. They fixed the bug where deleting an offline character would cause the next offline character you play to not save. They fixed the bug where abandoning an arena run and starting a new one would cause objects, shrines, NPCs, etc. from the previous run to stick around, appearing in strange places. And then a big one that bothered a lot of people was there is now an AFK timer in online mode. You will be warned after being AFK for 5 minutes, 10 minutes if you're in town, and kicked at 10 minutes if you're out in an echo, and 15 minutes if you're in town offline. This is probably to reduce the amount of servers they have open, especially for players that are AFK. But like I said, obviously to be playing, all you have to do is have a skill going, so you could just turn on an auto-casting skill or ability and just have it going. In towns, you probably won't be able to use abilities, so you might have to start an echo or be somewhere that you can use skills, put it on auto-cast, and then run and do whatever it is that you need it to do. And then for skill changes, we have the Assemble Abomination. The Engorgement node now has a 40 minion limit instead of unlimited. Bone Curse, the Illusion of Pain, has adjusted functionality. It no longer states that its damage and crit bonuses only apply if Bone Curse is directly applied by the Bone Curse spell. This wasn't working. The bonuses applied when it was applied by any method, so now you will have to actually be the one casting it directly. It also now reduces the duration of Cursed Limbs and Cursed Ground by 75%. The Bone Golem, they fixed the bug where the damage over time abilities, which are able to do damage minions such as Aura of Decay and Drain Life, could be triggered by the Bone Golem's infected remains. Elemental Nova, the channeled version, now has a maximum range, which is about the edge of your screen if you're running 16:9 format. Fireball, they fixed the bug where channeled Fireball did not visually convert to partial or full lightning. They fixed the bug where Fireball's tooltip DPS did not account for lightning conversion from Plasma Ball or Lilith. Forged weapons have updated models, textures, and visuals. Forged weapons have about 10% more attack speed. Hammer Throw, they fixed the bug where the Void Knight echoes using Hammer Throw would often cause the hammer to instantly return to the player, or if you were playing it, it just looked like they vanished into thin air. For Meteor, fixed the bug where Meteor could use its default visual when converted to lightning. Reaper Form is all new. It's got new models and everything for you. And transforming into Reaper Form now also uses Reap and counts as a movement ability right off the bat. Summon Bear has new models. Summon Skeleton has new models. Summon Wolf has new models. And then a big thing Going to be very curious to see what this does for the wolves in general, especially if you're playing Ice Bite builds, because it had an AoE with Ice Bite, is that they've changed it to where it now has a 6-second cooldown, whereas before, I believe in the skill tree you could get up to a 30% proc chance with every attack it did, so it was constantly going off. A 6-second cooldown is going to kill that for sure, but we'll have to see just how bad it got. They've added in 13 new enemies, and then all bear enemies have new models and animations. That's Heath bears, the Highland bears, lowland and cave bears. All wolves have new models and animations. That's the Wingary Hound, the Frozen Wolf, Black Wolf, and 𝐁𝐿. And then we have the Weaver uniques that are coming in the game. We went over this again in that other video, but again, this is going to be a unique that drops with Weaver's Will. It has the ability to add additional affixes and then level them up as you're leveling and killing mobs. And then with it, they said that they have put in 9 Weaver uniques. These all can fall in the campaign and level up with you as you go through the campaign and later in the game. There's 4 that are available to all classes and 5 that are class-specific relics. So hopefully we discover a lot of those going through the campaign. And then on top of the 9 Weaver uniques, they've added 6 general uniques as well. And then for set item changes, the Ferber set 2 set bonus gives +2 to totem skills instead of +1 now, and the Chisel gives 15 to 35% totem crit instead of 10 to 15. The Forgotten Knight set gives a little bit more Void Pen with Time Rot. The 3 set bonus gives 3% more Void damage per stack of Time Rot. It was 2% through this effect, and it wasn't even working before, so now it's fixed and you'll get a little bit more, so hopefully it feels really good when you use it if you're into sets. Gasper set, the 2 set bonus gives 50% cooldown reduction from Decimate instead of 35, and the 3 set now gives 15% more void damage to bosses and rare enemies in addition to its modifier that it already has. The Sunforged set, 2 set bonus gives +3 to Smelter's Wrath and Forge Strike from +1, and the Sunforged Hammer grants 10 to 15 melee fire damage with Forge Strike per summoned weapon instead of 10 to 12. And then the Sunforged Hammer grants 18 to 25 melee fire damage with Smelter's Wrath per summoned weapon that you have instead of 15 to 20. So a little bit boost of damage for it. Hopefully we see a bit more forged weapons and forged guard builds in general coming in this patch. And then there's just a lot of other little changes that they've had. Nothing really sticks out too much. For items, there is a new hybrid node for bows. They added a new added crit chance and bow attack speed hybrid effects for bows. The item crafting vacuum, so whenever you go to pick up shards and ruins off the ground, they've increased the area by 25%. They've changed crafting items to drop in a larger clump on average and never drop one at a time in level 12 plus areas, but you are still going to get the same amount. They're just going to drop all at once, and they will indeed drop closer together so that you don't have to pick up, from one side of the screen to the other side. You can usually just hit one and they'll all go up. And then they've renamed and updated the 2D art of quite a few items. And then lastly, for optimization, they've greatly improved the performance of the mini-map and overlay map. They've improved the performance of various visual effects that apply to the ground. And then they've improved the performance of ground item visual for quivers, improved the performance of Hungering Souls by reducing the poly count of the skull model, and improved the performance of zombies, the Emperor of Corpses, that spawn. And what's nice about this is Hungering Souls is a skill I plan on using right off the bat, so we'll be able to test that really quick. And that's it for the patch notes. I'll see you guys live on Twitch tomorrow as we start a new Lich character and start to explore the new Chapter 1 and all of the new things in the patch. As always, stay safe. Have a good one, travelers.